And then another goal we have is to serve as front doors and back doors to our church as a whole. This is huge, okay? This is really significant. We want to use focal point groups. When we say front door and back door, here's what we mean. Front door is like the first place of entry for a new person. It's the first point of contact they have with the local church. Back door means there are people that are coming in, but there's a potential possibility that people are coming in and they're just leaving. So they come in once and boom, they're out and they never come back. So we want to try to retain the people who are coming in and they're going out. So we want to close the back door with focal point groups. But we also want to function as a front door, which means all of us here as focal point facilitators, we want to be thinking about that when we have new people coming into our groups. We want to think through, okay, there's probably going to be new people, and we want to actually purpose our group for them. So it doesn't just become a closed-off group like a little small family, which it needs to function as that. But in addition to that, it's got to function as a group that's inviting for new people. Does that kind of make sense? So it's not just a back door we're closing, but it's also a front door that we're opening up for new people. So we say, okay, this is another way we can reach out to neighbors and friends and things like that. And then also to identify new members and those seeking baptism in the faith, use a focal point facilitator. You get the great opportunity to identify people where they're at in their walk with Jesus, if they're ready to get baptized. You're probably going to play a huge part in that whole world. So that's a goal. And then last, to birth new and creative avenues of ministry aligned with the church's main process of ministry. I think, like you point out, you got the gift to research. You love that. And then every single person in this group has, if not just one gift, things that John and people in leadership do not have. And so we need those giftings in order to become a much more effective and full org church. And so what we want to do in the focal point groups is that as you lead discussion, as you get to know the people in the group, you're thinking through, okay, this person has that gift. Wow, I don't see a person painting a picture, or we need a nice aesthetic environment. We need more of that. This person can connect with that. Or, we need, there's so many different things that you can do. We need more people advancing social justice in Irvine. Or, we need more mentors at the high school or the elementary school down the way in Irvine. We need to create these opportunities. We need to break into the campus at UCI. You're really gifted at connecting with college students. Let's figure out how we can do that. You're really apologetic. Let's create a venue where we can have a discussion forum with professors about the faith, good and bad, and just create some noise in the city. Right? I mean, you can do this. Like, there's so many people who are gifted in these areas, but the problem is that sometimes we kind of bottleneck the whole thing, and it gets stuck with a couple people, but we need to explode. We've got tons of people who are gifted. It's amazing. This really is a group of people who have incredible potential. I've had many conversations with guys like Vance, he's apologetic. That guy can do incredible things, and he is doing incredible things, but there's so many more things that he can do. All of us in here can do things that the church has to come behind and assist us in that process. And so we hope that Focal Point can actually help to do that. So what I want to do is, we'll transition and we'll try to speed things along a little bit here. Okay, well, there you go.
I won't talk much about it, but we're going to move into the qualifications of a leader. And as we do highly recommend and just ask that you go through the section 1 and section 2 leading into next week, but go over section 1. And it kind of connects. There's a certain flow of thought that we had in mind as we put this together. So in the qualifications of a leader, we actually took it out of the Bible, out of 1 Timothy 3, 8 through 12. And the qualifications here are specifically for a deacon. But the qualifications, it's something that it kind of pulls out or draws out. The main importance is this idea of character. And I write it in here, but a lot of us, whatever profession, you can have a lawyer or a doctor or a lot of other services out there who can be a complete jerk. Or he could be just a complete, bad person. I don't know how that might look like. But if they are competent in their job, that really doesn't bother you. They may rub you the wrong way or something. But as a facilitator, you can't be great at facilitating, but yet have really shoddy character. And so what's really important, and we're trying to highlight here, is this idea of character itself. And so, Paul, he lists these specifics out for the deacon, but even the idea of the deacon, when translated other words, is a minister, but even that itself means servant. And as this idea of being a facilitator or a leader of a group, you're literally serving those people that are in your group. You're sharing of yourself, you're giving of your time, you're giving of your homes, food, a lot of things. There's a lot of things that you're serving. And so that idea is there's a certain character aspect that has to be in there. And so there's these specific things in here, but there's two things that we wanted to clarify. One, they're not all inclusive and they're not all exclusive in a way. Like I said, these are specifics just to show a general picture of what character should look like, what a character of a leader, of a facilitator should be. And so we don't want people to walk away and say, oh, yeah, I don't meet this criteria per se.
Manage their children. Chris, what are we doing in here? We gotta get out.
So, yeah, there are. Look, like I said, we don't want people to feel discouraged, but the thing is, we don't want to disregard them, and see, we don't want to go to those two extremes. We don't want to say, oh, well, this is just something that looks good on paper, and so it's not really that important. But we want to show the severity, or just that standard of leadership. And a lot of people, they make excuses. Well, if this is what leaders have to be, then there won't be any leaders in the church. But see, there's a certain standard, and this also disqualifies the power of the gospel to even change lives of the leaders themselves and to work in their life as they minister and as they are ministered to. And so I want to quickly give this back to you because Dustin and I, we talked a lot about this, and there's something that he talked about that's a really great criteria of where you can just internally think through your own with convictions of where you think you can be willing to serve or not. And so we'll go right into that.
Yeah, so real quick, I think one of the things that Paul, the apostle, says, and it's Paul, he's a pretty brilliant guy, and this is probably the best line he says, I think, and it's really spoken to me and stuck with me, is he said that I do the things in Romans, he says, I do the things that I hate. And I think here's the thing, like, when it comes down to it with facilitating or leading or anything like that, there are people who, because you have two things going on here. You've got your standard that you're trying to shoot for, but then you've got an attitude that comes with that trying to shoot for. And I've met two different types of leaders. I've met three different types. I've met the type of a leader that could give a rip about the standard, is totally indifferent to it, has just grown cold to want to grow in that particular area. I've met the leader who wants to grow in that area, desires it, but for whatever reason continues to fall into that cycle of whatever that sin might be. Now I met the other leader who doesn't want to grow in that area, but despises that particular thing that he or she is caught up in. And the reason why that person doesn't want to grow in that area is because they're totally defeated. Like, I'm done. I've lost the battle, it's over. And so what they do is they disqualify themselves from ever leading. Not because they're messing up and not because they're broken, but because they've come to a place where they've retreated and they're just done. And so my bet would be this, that if there are some of you who are in here and you say, you're really thinking through this, you're thinking, okay, there's some struggles that I have. There's some things that, obviously we're all a bunch of messed up, broken sinners. I mean, that's like the gospel message. We're depraved people. But for some of you, you're at a point where you're like, I've retreated and I'm just giving up. And I would say this, Paul makes the telling statement when he says, I do the things I hate. It's so significant. And I think for us as leaders, here's what we're looking for. We're not looking for moral perfection. We're not looking for people who have just nailed it and they're totally victorious over everything in life. We're not looking for that. Because that's not real. It's not true. It's not human. We're looking for people who say, there are things I do. I've identified them. I'm not ignorant to them. I'm not oblivious about them. I know I do them. I confess them. I acknowledge them. I bring them to light. But I hate them. That's so significant. Because that means that in that person's heart, God has changed it toward that sin. And he has exploded their heart with a passion to want to leave that behind. What's the time span? What's the journey going like? I have no clue. But there's this reality that that person has a disposition of hate toward that particular sin. Does that make sense? And so that's what we're looking